Many a times we fail to understand that love is something that needs to be expressed. Love is something that doesn't stay within our hearts, it has to show on our bodies. Love is something that must manifest. This is why in a few days you're going to see that the Canadian flags will be raised. And you're going to receive messages on your phone with people who love their country, declaring their love for their country. And this is good because a person should love his country which he grew up in. But what's more important and more great than this love is the love we have for our religion. It's the love we have for Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, ذَلِكَ وَمَن يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِن تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. And he tells us, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَتَّخِذُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ أَنْدَادًا يُحِبُّونَهُمْ كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ. That there are certain people, they associate partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They make equals with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. يُحِبُّونَهُمْ, they love those equals كَحُبِّ اللَّهِ, just as their love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us that although these people, they love their deities, they love their gods, but those who believe, they're more severe. Ashad literally means they're more severe. They are more loving of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is far greater than any other person, and their love for their deity and their love for their gods. As Muslims, we have to understand that the first step and the first understanding of Islam is that our love and our submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should pass and should supersede any other submission and any other love. Our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be so great that within our looks, within our approach, within our conduct, the way we transact, the way we interact, every single portion of our life should show the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not sufficient to say, I have the love of Allah in my heart, because love is something that should manifest. It should express itself. But it's unfortunate that if we were to ask ourselves that on the day of Eid, we all know on the way to the masajid, there's a very important sunnah, and that is to recite the takbirat, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah wallahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar walillahi alhamd. This is a sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to recite these takbirat out loud on the day of Eid al-Adha. That if you were to ask ourselves that on our way to the masjid, how many of us were reciting these takbirat out loud? It's unfortunate, even though it's the early morning, there's no one outside. It's a group of Muslims, but everyone is chit-chatting, everyone is talking. And there's no one reciting the takbirat. Maybe there's one person, maybe there's two, and even them in a very low voice, they're reciting the takbirat. But if we have love for the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this love should manifest. If we have love for Allah and for the sha'air of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this love must show. Now, of course, all of us have love. But what's the reason behind this shyness? What's the reason behind us being quiet and us not expressing our love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger? Perhaps the reason is a lack of knowledge. Because although we know this is sunnah, although we know saying the takbirat is from the commandments of Islam before and after the Eid Salah, although we understand this, because we haven't studied the importance and the greatness of this topic, we overlook it sometimes. That's why today I want to discuss something very important in our religion, and that is sha'airullah. What is a sha'ira? A sha'ira literally means a sign. Any sign upon anything is a sha'ira. So for instance, the Canadian flag is a sign of Canada. That could be called a sha'ira. Likewise, we have different signs, different lampposts, different things we see throughout our daily lives. These are all sha'air. But sha'airullah is different. What is sha'airullah? Imam Tabari writes, مَا أَعْلَمَ اللَّهُ بِهِ عِبَادَهُ مَظَاهِرَ لِلدِّينِ. That these sha'air, there are things which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed of us, and He has established this for us as signs of the religion. These are things which represent the religion. Why? كَيْ يُعَظِّمُوهَا. So that as people we could respect and we could venerate these commandments and these sha'air of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We know that there are certain commandments that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given, and there are many commandments. From amongst these commandments, we have such commandments that they represent the religion. They are a sign upon the religion. These are sha'airullah. For instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ الصَّفَا وَالْمَرْوَةَ مِنْ شَعَائِرِ اللَّهِ. That Safa and Marwa, these are from the signs which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed upon this religion. And many more different types of sha'air. As a Muslim, our desire, our goal, our hope, whichever land we live in, wherever we live, whether it's a land of Muslims or it's not, but our hope should be to raise the sha'air of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A few years ago, during COVID, we had the opportunity to hear the adhan on loudspeakers. As we were fasting because all the brothers were at home and we were not allowed to enter the masajid. At that time, they allowed us to put the adhan on loudspeakers. This is the sha'ira of Islam. But it's unfortunate that we have Muslims themselves saying that why do we have to do this? Why are we bothering others? This is very unfortunate because we've lost the zeal and we've lost the desire to raise the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We've lost the hope to raise the kalima of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether we are in this country, whether we are in a different country. These are the sha'air of Allah. They are signs which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed upon the religion. And there are signs which represent the religion. And as Muslims, our goal from being in these lands and our desire and our hope should be to raise these sha'air, to raise these kalimat, these words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so when we look into the sha'air, we understand the sha'air are many types. So we have general sha'air, which is for instance any commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and any prohibition which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has issued. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to pray salah 5 times a day. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to give zakat on a yearly basis. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to fast in every Ramadan, etc., etc. These are commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so there are also sha'air of the religion. Our duty as Muslims is to uphold these commandments. Wherever we may find ourselves, we must uphold, and not just uphold, we also venerate these commandments. We respect and honor these commandments. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Hajj, which is a surah that all of us should recite, especially in these days. We should look into the tafsir of this surah, open a small English tafsir, and look through the tafsir of the surah, understand the surah, because this is where the command is given to Ibrahim alayhi salam to call the people towards Hajj. In Surah Al-Hajj, وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا إِلَىٰ آخِرِ الْآيَةِ. So we should look into this surah and we should read the surah. Nonetheless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when speaking about the rights and the commandments in Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, ذَلِكَ وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. That the person who venerates and he respects and he honors the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he respects and he honors what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed as signs upon the religion, فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. This veneration is a sign that Allah has blessed his heart with taqwa. This veneration is a sign that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed God consciousness and He has placed awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his heart. And this goes back to what I mentioned in the introduction, that every single person, we have love of Allah in our hearts. We have taqwa of Allah. We know Allah is watching us. But this taqwa and this love has to be expressed. Veneration of the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best way to express one's taqwa. It is the utmost, the most sincere way of showing one's love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where any command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very important in our eyes. Any prohibition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very important to us. We would not dare to go towards a prohibition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as human beings, when we make mistakes and when we fail, we turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right away. These commands, although sometimes a sin may be small, although sometimes a deed may be small, we may think of it as small, but we have to understand that when we sin, we shouldn't look towards the small quality or the minuteness of the sin. We shouldn't look at how minor the sin is. We should look towards the greatness of the one we are sinning against. We should look towards the greatness of the one we are disobeying. So the sha'air of Allah, from a general perspective, it can be commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and prohibitions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever Allah has commanded, we fulfill, and whatever Allah has prohibited, we refrain from. Then when we look at sha'air from a more specific glance, a more specific view, we see that sha'air, the signs of this religion, can be distributed or organized into more categories. For instance, we have sha'air makaniyya. These are sha'air, they are signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which have to do with places. A certain place, a holy sanctity which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed. For instance, the masjid of Makkah, in the Kaaba itself and the haram of Makkah, that whole area is a very special place. It's a special place which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has deemed sacred. And that's why when we see the Hujjaj, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to go towards this land and enable us to visit His beloved house, we see the way that everything changes. In those lands, the demeanor is different. The attitude of a Muslim is different. You see the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everywhere you look. And that first sight, when you glance upon the Kaaba, you really understand how great Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. That people come from across the globe, every single place and every single home, and they come for one reason and one purpose, to circle around Baytullah, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is attributed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of respect and out of honor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has attributed this house towards himself. So we have sha'air makaniya, places which are important and places which are sacred. Likewise, the Haram of Medina, the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take all of us there. The blessed masjid of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And likewise, the third most holiest site in this land, in this world, which is al-Masjid al-Aqsa. The masjid, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala free it from the hands of the oppressors and return it to the Muslims. These are sha'air makaniya, places which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has deemed very sacred. And likewise, every single masjid across the globe. This is why when we come to the masjid, we have to understand we are entering the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of us, when we enter, we take our shoes off. But why do we do that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands Musa alayhi salam in the Quran, فَخْلَعْنَا عَلَيْكَ إِنَّكَ بِالْوَادِ الْمُقَدَّسِ طُوَى. That when you come, and Musa alayhi salam was invited to come to see Allah, to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he was told, take off your sandals. Why? Because you're in a very sacred valley. You are in a blessed place. Likewise, we come to the masjid, we leave our shoes at the doorsteps, because we understand that this masjid is a blessed place. This masjid shouldn't be a place of raising our voices. It should not be a place of shouting. It should not be a place of business. That's not what the masjid is made for. The masjid is made for إِنَّمَا يَعْمُرُ مَسَاجِدَ اللَّهِ مَنْ آمَنَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَأَقَامَ الصَّلَاةَ وَآتَى الزَّكَاةَ وَلَمْ يَخْشَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. The masjid is inhabited, it is built by people who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They believe in the last day. They fulfill, they uphold the prayers, and they give the zakah, and they don't fear anyone except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so our purpose in the masjid should be to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we come to the masjid, we should ensure that we uphold the etiquettes of the masjid, because this is part of veneration of the sha'air of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes we're praying salah, and there are brothers who leave their phones on, and it bothers everyone in the masjid. Sometimes brothers come after eating some food and they begin to burp. This is bothersome. It may cause trouble to your Muslim brothers. Likewise with children, we should explain to them that the masjid is not a playground. The masjid is not a field to run around and play in. Of course, if someone does it, you tell them with respect, you tell them with love. There's no reason to be harsh. We should follow the commandments and the teachings of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it should be made clear that the masjid is a place where the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to be raised. The masjid is a place where we should uphold the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then, moving on, we have sha'air zamaniya, certain times which are important in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For instance, we have the 4 sacred months, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شَهْرًا فِي كِتَابِ اللَّهِ يَوْمَ خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ مِنْهَا أَرْبَعَةٌ حُرُمٌ. That there are 4 sacred months which Allah has given us. And although we are in one of these sacred months right now, we have to understand that although the 10 first days of Dhul Hijjah are very special, days unlike any other days in the year, but even the remaining 20 days of Dhul Hijjah are also special. There are days in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should be glorified. There are days in which we should continue our ibadat, our acts of worship, which we introduced into our lives, or which we improved in our lives in the first 10 days. So we ensure that in these 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, in the remaining days of Dhul Hijjah, we venerate and we remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we make abundant the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we have different times throughout the year, and from those times is Jumu'ah. Many of us fail to understand the value of Jumu'ah in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us upon the tongue of His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that Jumu'ah is so special that there is a time in this day where no dua of a Muslim will go rejected. Every dua a Muslim makes will be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the scholars explain to us that this time, although there's many opinions, but the more stronger opinion is that this time is either between the 2 khutbahs. When the Imam sits down during the khutbahs, we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our hearts. Or this time is when, after Asr till Maghrib Salah, this whole time we make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we engage in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a very special time. And finally, from the sha'air We have a very special action, and this action is the action of Hajj. If you look into Hajj, which all the pilgrims are doing right now, or have completed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, bless them, make it easy for them. We understand that Hajj is filled. It is filled with different sha'air of Islam. The Hujjaj, the pilgrims, they go to Mecca, and then once they arrive in Mecca, they spend their night at Mina, they spend their night at Muzdalifah, they go to Arafah, they spend the day over there remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, engaged in the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then they go and they do tawaf of the blessed house, and they run between Safa and Marwa. What is all of this? These are sha'air of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and anything related to Hajj, even the animal that a person will slaughter, even that is important and blessed in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for this reason, the early Arabs, whenever there would be an animal which they would sacrifice for Hajj or for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would mark it in a specific manner. So if anyone seen that animal, they would not hunt it, they would not attack it, because they understood that these animals are special, they are sacred for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even though we may not be in Hajj, we still have this opportunity. Just these 3 days, all of us, inshallah, we did the Qurban, we did the Udhiyah, and we slaughtered these animals for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it's unfortunate that over here in these lands, many of us don't actually go to the farms. We don't go and see this action happening. We may order online, which is amazing, and we may send our Udhiyah to different lands, which is good. But at the same time, we have to ensure that our children see this. Our children should understand that this is from the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They should realize that this is part of our religion. And it's not just a small part of our religion. It is something which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has labeled as a sign of our religion. That on every Eid al-Adha, we should go out and we should slaughter this animal in remembrance of the practice of Ibrahim alayhi salam. These are all sha'airullah. We have to ensure that we bring these sha'air into our lives and we uphold these sha'air. To conclude, just on the topic of Hajj, I mentioned in the beginning that love is something which expresses itself. Love is something which manifests. When you look at Hajj and you see the way the Hujjaj travel from area to area, and they're running from area to area, and they're learning around the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they're rushing towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the greatest manifestation of love. And so if a person truly wants to see the love of Allah come to life, let him go to that blessed land, let him go for Hajj. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take all of us there, where the poor come and the rich come, the black come and the white come. Every single person comes together and they circle around the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no rich, there is no poor. There is no high, there is no low. Everyone is a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everyone shows their face before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in utmost humility. We have to ensure that we bring these sha'air and the veneration of these sha'air into our lives. We still have a day or two left of the days of Eid, the Ayyam al-Tashriq. So let's ensure that we engage in the dhikr of Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah wallahu akbar, Allahu akbar lillahi alhamd. And likewise for the remaining of this month, we engage in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the ability to act upon what has been said. Wa akhiru da'wana.
الحمد لله رب العالمين على جزيل نعمه وواسع فضله. أمر وأوجب على الآباء تربية أولادهم على الخير والفضيلة، وأوجب على الأولاد طاعة آبائهم في المعروف وبرهم والإحسان إليهم في مقابل تلك التربية الحميدة. وقل رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أرسله بين يدي الساعة بشيرًا ونذيرًا وداعيًا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجًا منيرًا. صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليمًا كثيرًا. أما بعد، فيا أيها الناس، اتقوا الله سبحانه وتعالى، واعلموا أن صلاح الذرية كان محل اهتمام الأنبياء عليهم الصلاة والسلام. لهذا خليل الله إبراهيم عليه السلام يدعو الله أن يرزقه ولدا صالحا، فيقول رب هب لي من الصالحين، ويقول واجنبني وبني أن نعبد الأصنام، ويقول رب اجعل لي مقيم الصلاة ومن ذريتي، ويقول هو وإسماعيل عند بناء البيت ربنا واجعلنا مسلمين لك ومن ذريتنا أمة مسلمة لك. ويقول زكريا عليه الصلاة والسلام: رب هب لي من لدنك ذرية طيبة إنك سميع الدعاء. هذا اهتمام من هؤلاء الأنبياء بشأن الذرية قبل وجودها. أما بعد وجودها فكانت تتضاعف جهودهم ويعظم اهتمامهم بتربيتها وتوجيهها نحو الخير وإبعادها عن الشر. وأول ما ينسب اهتمامهم إلى إصلاح عقائد أولادهم، كما قال الله تعالى: ووصى بها إبراهيم بنيه ويعقوب يا بني إن الله اصطفى لكم الدين فلا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. حتى عند الوفاة نجد أن يعقوب عليه السلام يريد الاطمئنان على عقيدة أبنائه بعد وفاته. أم كنتم شهداء إذ حضر يعقوب الموت إذ قال لبنيه ما تعبدون من بعدي قالوا نعبد إلهك وإله آبائك إبراهيم وإسماعيل وإسحاق إله واحدا ونحن له مسلمون. وهذا لقمان يوجه إلى ابنه وصايا عظيمة فينهاه عن الشرك ويأمره بإقامة الصلاة والأمر بالمعروف والنهي عن المنكر والصبر على المصائب، وينهاه عن الكبر واحتقار الناس والفخر والخيلاء. هذا ما قصه الله علينا في كتابه من بيان مواقف الأنبياء مع أبنائهم لنقتدي بهم وندرك عزم مسؤولية الأولاد على آبائهم. دين الله هو الوسط المعتدل وهو الصراط المستقيم. وفقنا الله سبحانه وتعالى لما يحب ويرضى. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. وأن هذا صراطي مستقيما فاتبعوه ولا تتبعوا السبل فتفرق بكم عن سبيله ذلكم وصاكم به لعلكم تتقون. بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بالآيات والذكر الحكيم. أستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له. ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. ونشهد أن سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى مخبرا وآمرا: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد عبدك ورسولك وصل على المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات، خصوصا على أمير المؤمنين سيدنا أبي بكر الصديق رضي الله تعالى عنه، وعلى أمير المؤمنين سيدنا عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله تعالى عنه، وعلى أمير المؤمنين سيدنا عثمان بن عفان رضي الله تعالى عنه، وعلى أمير المؤمنين سيدنا علي بن أبي طالب رضي الله تعالى عنه، وعلى سيدة نساء أهل الجنة فاطمة الزهراء رضي الله تعالى عنها، وعلى سيدي شباب أهل الجنة الحسن والحسين رضي الله تعالى عنهما، وعلى الستة الباقية من العشرة المبشرة، وعلى أمهات المؤمنين، وعلى سائر الصحابة والتابعين رضوان الله تعالى عليهم أجمعين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم انصر من نصر الإسلام والمسلمين، واخذل من خذل الإسلام والمسلمين. اللهم اجعل بلاد الإسلام آمنة مطمئنة من كل البليات والآفات. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم، وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله. سبحان ربي. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار. ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا. ربنا فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا وتوفنا مع الأبرار. ربنا وآتنا ما وعدتنا على رسلك ولا تخزنا يوم القيامة إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله والله أكبر. الله أكبر ولله الحمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله سيدنا محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا واسعا وعملا صالحا وإيمانا مستقيما وفضلا دائما وشفاء من كل داء. اللهم اشفنا واشف مرضى المسلمين. اللهم اشفنا واشف مرضى المسلمين. اللهم اشفنا واشف مرضى المسلمين. اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان. يا فاطر السماوات والأرض أنت ولينا في الدنيا والآخرة. توفنا مسلمين وألحقنا بالصالحين غير خزايا ولا ندامى ولا مفتونين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه سيدنا محمد وآله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.